We just published a study yesterday, and price is more important than ever now. If I make it myself, if I can get my private label to have some pop to it, I get to keep all the money. The tip that I can give is the more private label you can sell, the better you are. Customer experience is a big deal, but depending on timing, customer experience means different things, right? Again, sometimes a customer experience just means I want it fast. The millennials who used to think tiny houses would work are now kind of having children and realizing, no, they need actual homes.
But before we begin, a quick shout out to our partner, ImShop. This company creates the best out-of-the-box mobile app solution for retail and e-commerce. They are cost-effective, fast-start omnichannel solution with open integrations. I worked with them and I can assure the quality. imshop.io. The link will be in the description below. So now back to the interview. Hi, Paula.
Hi.
Thank you very much for finding time for us, and welcome to the Digital Voice.
My pleasure.
We're very, very glad to have you. For those who are listening and viewing us right now and those who don't know you, can you please do a brief introduction about who you are and what you're doing?
Sure. I am Paula Rosenblum. I'm a co-founder and managing partner of RSR Research. I also write a blog for Forbes occasionally, really occasionally lately. I've been in retail for my entire life. My father was actually an independent shopkeeper, and I went into retail IT pretty young. And I rose up to be a CIO, and I got kind of tired of it, to be honest with you, and ended up becoming an analyst. And so I've been a retail analyst for about 20 years. And at the moment, I'm on sabbatical, but I took a break from a sabbatical to do this call with you guys.
Oh, that's super exciting. Thank you again for joining us. That we are very, very excited to have you. So if I understand it correctly, you are making lots and lots of reports about what's happening right now with the retail industry and with the commerce in general, right?
Correct. I mean, RSR, what we realized when we went into business is that there were a lot of companies talking about technology sort of in a vacuum. And we felt that it was better and theoretical best practices. So what we wanted to focus on is what are retailers really doing, and how does technology fit into the context of the business challenges and opportunities that they see. Because every enterprise, yours, mine, everybody's, has a business challenge. And from out of those business challenges, you can see opportunities if you can get past, not stepping on your own feet to get there. And so the question becomes, how does technology act as an enabler for those activities that you see as an opportunity? And I'll cite some examples later, but the pandemic, which has turned out to be the great accelerator, has shown us which companies had made wise investments in technologies and which ones were kind of sitting like this.
Well, yeah. So as you said, every interview should start with the pandemic analytics nowadays, right? So let's do it for a little brief moment. So after the pandemic, we saw that customers changed their behavior in many different ways. But with your point of view, which are the main trends that in which customer behavior change?
Well, lockdowns, I think, are worldwide, and they certainly are nationwide here. Even though I live in a state where the governor isn't so keen on them, the truth is, if you have any comorbidities or any kind of illnesses, you're going to not want to go shopping. That's for sure. So that was the first round was they locked us down. And so a lot of direct to consumer happened, a lot of buy online, pick up at the curb, a lot of buy online rather than even going into the store, just, put my groceries in the trunk of my car and thank you very much. Now we're in a different state, although it's kind of similar in that we're in the middle of another phase of the pandemic where it's not necessarily going to make you as sick, but nonetheless, it's insanely contagious. And so we're back in this mode of, I think I'll just stay home and let them leave the things at my door. Or, I'm lucky enough in that I live in Miami, so I can go out, and like last year I learned to kayak, and there's different activities I can do outdoors. It's not like if I was in Moscow and I didn't have a lot of outdoor, I couldn't go for a stroll, let's say.
Absolutely. Taking a
But
bus
it's
is
challenging.
yeah, taking a bus in Moscow is an outdoor activity. I like in New York, I guess. So that's wonderful. Okay, so but this is it a trend? I guess this is like the reality that we're facing. But what are the customer behavior trends that are changing due to this reality shift?
Again, buy online, pick up in store, buy online, pick up at the curb, and just straight up e-commerce. The other thing that changed from a category perspective is there's a real run on sporting goods, because again, there's only so many things you can do. Um, there are some real baffling shortages even in our domestically made products that I don't as yet understand. I mean, I know what the industry blames it on, which is consumer hoarding, consumer this, consumer that. I don't buy it. It's gone on too long. And certainly we have a problem at the ports for sure. So anything that's coming imported is just taking a really, really long time. As a result, we have a lot of inflation because of that. So everyone is paying more for everything they buy. All the costs associated with the containers, because container prices have like doubled on doubled on doubled. I mean, it's crazy numbers. And retailers are just passing them along,
Okay,
those
okay.
costs.
Um, if we would take a broader perspective, there is one term that was like a flagship term for the whole retail for a very long time, and it's omnichannel. Everybody were very keen on this technology, and technologies that followed with it. What is your perspective on omnichannel? What does this term mean for you today?
Well, for one thing, it means my friend Leslie Hand, who coined it, should have trademarked it, and she'd be retired in the Bahamas by now. But nonetheless, what it really means is that the customer wants to buy where she wants to buy. She wants to pay the way she wants to pay, and she wants to take delivery how she wants to take delivery. And it's not on the retailer to make that decision. It's on the retailer to support her in whatever it is that she wants. And if you can't do it, somebody else probably can. So that is that's what omnichannel really means, is end to end kind of relationship. You source it from wherever. You always do your research online, as you ever did. But then you're gonna, instead of going out to a store to buy it, most of the time you'll just order it in. And the numbers went up. I think they're going to go. I'm not sure they're going to stick to the level that they went up, and I don't think retailers want them to stick to that level because it's not as profitable. But certainly, every time the pandemic fades and people get a chance, the stores really all of a sudden explode with traffic because people have been hemmed in so long, holed up so long.
Uh,
So definitely the trend to move online accelerated. Definitely omni-channel means I want what I want when I want it, and I don't want to pay to return it if I have to. That's essentially what it means.
but it changes the rule book for a lot of businesses, brands, and retailers, because it means that from that moment everything is first of all super transparent. There is no
There's no window shopping. There's no impulse buying.
impulse buying. Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I mean they try to make that work online by like if you look at Amazon, they'll pop up something saying, well, since you got this, maybe you want this, and that maybe will work 1 out of 20 times, but it's not the same as standing at a checkout counter and at around the check stand are all these high margin sort of cheap products that people will just pick up. Oh yeah, I could use batteries, or oh yeah, I could use a magazine or something like that. It's not, you lose that.
or even for fashion industry, if you would argue that sometimes you can go into a fashion store wanting to buy a jacket and end up with shoes, hat, and something else, because it has a lot to do with the store assistant's ability to sell you stuff, which we
Certainly.
don't have anymore online because e-commerce doesn't come with the store physical store assistant.
Yeah, they try to do it with showing you perhaps you might like this, but it doesn't really work as well. The other really bigger problem for apparel, to be honest with you, is that absent without a fitting room, what customers will tend to do, especially because they demand free returns, is they'll buy two different sizes, three different colors, and pick the one item that they like. And so what you end up with is, if you're good, a 25% return rate for apparel. If you're good. If you're not good, it can be as high as 35%. And the costs associated with that are crazy, because there's the credit card fees outbound, the credit card fee to process the refund. There's the shipping charge, even if you own your own planes, your shipping charge to get it there, your shipping your return charge. Typically, like if it's Amazon, it's through UPS, I think. You drop it there and then they'll send it back for you. All of that costs money, and all of that erodes a certain amount of profit unless you're really good at what you do. That's the biggest challenge with apparel online.
Do you see any solution for that? Do you see
No,
that?
I do not. I mean, there are plenty of people who show solutions to that. But the problem is that absent a fitting room and absent VR, virtual reality that's beyond where I think we are right now, you just don't know till you put it on. And you think about the color. I don't know if I look the same color wise on your monitor as you look on mine, because they're calibrated slightly differently. And so you get it in your house and you thought it was perfect, and you turn. It's happened to me with towels all the time. I think I'm buying one color towel and it turns out to be something entirely different that I may not like. So no, I don't. I think that there's a reason why retailers want you to go into stores. When I was a CIO, we never even talked about returns. I mean, it was just sort of part of the cost of doing business, somewhere between 3% and 8%. No big deal. All of a sudden, it's a thing, it's a topic, and it's not going away anytime soon. So that's a tremendous change,
But somebody
tremendous.
will have to pay for this, and probably this will be the client, right? So you need to gain this in your margin somehow, and the only way
Yeah,
to
but you
do it.
can't. You can't. The expectation isn't there. The expectation was already set, partly, mostly by Amazon, that returns will be free. Now, for some retailers, like let's say Walmart, returns are less expensive, because they have stores. They can just ship them to a store or something like that. But don't forget, when a product comes back, it also has to be looked at to see if it's still in saleable condition. It may have a stain on it. It may just be. I mean, a long time ago, in prehistoric times, I wrote a returns management system for a catalog retailer. And I mean, this is before the internet was even a gleam in anybody's eyes.
Physical catalog.
And all, pardon?
A physical catalog.
Yeah, physical catalog. The company, I think, was Chadwick's of Boston. I'm not sure they exist anymore. And just the number of dispositions and the directions that this stuff had to go in when it hit the warehouse were stunning, because things like, oh, it's perfect, just put it right back on the box, in a box on a shelf. It needs to be pressed or steamed out, needs to be dry cleaned, it needs a minor repair. And all of these things had to be in the system to keep track of, or it's a total loss, throw it away. So
It brings us to a very interesting argument because what you're saying is that Amazon is putting a pressure on all of the direct to consumer companies and brands in terms of clients' expectations, because they are the ones who are creating those expectations. And the newer companies will also create those 1 hour delivery, 15-minute deliveries, and it all eats out from the margin of the direct to consumer business. So you cannot sell the towel more expensive, because if you're not a brand, if you're a commodity, if you're just selling towels, if you're Walmart, they will not buy it, right?
Well, the truth is, I was looking on the TV. I unfortunately was in a really bad car accident about 3 months ago, and my car was totaled, and I had to buy a new one. And luckily, I knew my car was old, was getting old, so I was looking at new ones already. Um, and what I had already discovered is that the price had gone up by at least 25%. Now they're saying 37. And so when I totaled my car, the amount of money I had to pay to replace it was stunning. I mean, stunning. Now, granted, what they gave me for my car, given that it was a pretty old car, was pretty stunning as well. But inflation is definitely, it's probably dampening the economy more than anything, because everything is late, everything's expensive, and the cost of a lot of these things have to be absorbed somehow. But you
Okay.
can't charge for return. You can't do a restocking fee. And in fact, what just happened to me, and it's becoming a thing, is just keep it. It's cheaper to just keep it, send you your money back, and not like I bought a water cooler that's defective. It doesn't The water tastes really creepy when it comes out. And so when I called Amazon to return it, they said, well, I mean, get a refund. They said, well, you have to return it. And I said, it's 5 feet high. Where am I going to get a box to return this in? And you're going to pay for that shipping? And she said, just dump it. So
But do
that's
you, but do you,
that's
but do you
something.
see that how it brings us to an economy where everything which can be commoditized, which is not a brand, because you can only charge premium when it is a brand, even if it's made in China, if it is a cheap product, but it is a brand, like I don't know, any of the supplements. All of the supplements are done in China and cost like 20 cents. But when they're sold on Amazon, it's $12, $20. So the margins are crazy there. But if you're building brand, then you can charge for more. If you're a commodity, then you can't. Do you see all commoditized goods eventually becoming just part of a listing of Amazon or Walmart and just becoming their OEMs?
I don't think Amazon's taking over the world. No, I think there's a backlash. I really do. I think there's a backlash to Amazon. They didn't treat their people well during the pandemic, and it was well noticed, quite frankly. They got terrible press. I don't think it was an accident that Jeff Bezos decided to retire. I mean, their personal time off policy was not great. From an accounting perspective, you have to treat potential time off as a payable, and that really kind of messes up your balance sheet. So what they told their employees was that, well, what you have to do is pool your personal time off and take from each other. Whereas Walmart, A, gave bonuses, B, gave people extra time off, and were really kinder about it. And it's not an accident that people are just walking away from their jobs because they're not being treated. They all of a sudden, these people that were doing jobs that were felt to be, fungible, where they could be done by someone else, it turns out that they became frontline workers. They were right in the middle of this. I mean, flight attendants are getting hit on planes, and literally physically hit. People in stores are getting hit if they ask someone to put a mask on, and people are going, and I'm doing this for $12 an hour or whatever the number is. That doesn't make any sense to me. So Walmart and Target have both been really throwing a lot of money at the problem, because it's one way to make them stay, and it's another reason, frankly, that we have it's another cause of the supply chain jam up, is that the truckers are saying, I can only work as hard as I can work. I mean, it's really interesting the revelation that people had that life is short and that you wanna spend it in the best way possible and not subject yourself to unnecessary risks.
Well, yeah, yeah, that's interesting. The other interesting thing is the pricing, because given the fact that everything is becoming a little bit cheaper, do you see from your researches that the price is becoming more and more important for the clients? And
Yes.
yeah,
Yes, we just published a study yesterday, and price is more important than ever now. Now, there's an opportunity there because retailers also sell private label products. And so what you can do is charge for a private label what they used to pay for a brand, and the consumer doesn't feel as much pain. So there's an opportunity there. Yeah,
okay, so it means that again, all of the commodity products, like I don't know, like printer paper, uh, it, it doesn't matter. But if it can be a private label of a well-known brand, then there is something to put
well,
more.
for example, if I buy from, paper is a bad example because I can't remember any paper manufacturers, but if I buy from Stella McCartney, which is very, very high end, but she's for some reason top of mind. I have to pay her company to buy the product from her, which means I make basically half of what I would have made. If I make it myself, if I can get my private label to have some pop to it, I get to keep all the money. I don't have to, apart from my marketing spend, I get to keep it. So it's always been a boon, and it's always been something that retailers have been working on for the most part. Even the smallest retailers find ways to get their private label into a store.
So, what
They buy.
tips can you give to retailers and brands out of the report that you published about the prices?
The tip that I can give is the more private label you can sell, the better you are. Because now I don't know, because I don't live in Russia, I don't know what kinds of supply chain issues you have. Like, do you
The same.
the same? Then you have to move towards private label. And retailers have been, again, if you think of COVID as the great accelerant, this is something retailers have been trying to do for well over a decade, and now it's becoming more urgent. Now the challenge with that is you have to persuade consumers that your products are as good as the national brands. An example I always use is there's a grocery store down here in South Florida called Publix. And what they did during the Great Recession is they said every week they had a rotating three. I can't remember what, every week was another three. Buy a national brand and we'll give you a Publix brand of the same item free, so that they could find out that actually it tasted quite just as good as the other one. And by the way, you got twice as much as you expected. So it's an expensive promotion, but it can pay really long-term dividends if you do that.
Okay, so the one of the other strategies that the retailers and brands are following in terms of keeping the volumes and keeping clients is working on their loyalty programs to keep the lifetime value of the client and loyal core of their audience. What are the suggestions you can give about keeping the loyalty of customers? Is it even possible nowadays with?
No, no, because at the end of the day, it's about, can I feed my family? Can I clothe my family? Can I stay healthy? Who's going to make it easiest for me to buy something, and who's going to follow what I perceive as prescriptions for a healthy life? I mean, so there are stores I buy from. I'm not a terribly price sensitive individual, so I may choose to buy from someplace like the Vitamin Shop because their COO is a friend of mine, and I'm happy to see them do well. But for the most part, most consumers very clearly it's all about price, and switching costs are too low. Now the only place where that becomes different is speed, right? I mean, like I try to buy less from Amazon because it's starting to get silly how much I buy from them and how much everyone buys from them. And the only time when I won't go for an alternative is 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 um, is if I'm in a hurry, because it was only a very early phases of the pandemic where they couldn't fill the order. They still aren't really precise about how long it will take to fill that order, but none in other words, they could be off by a day one way or the other, but generally they're pretty close. So that's one tip for sure, is do whatever you can to get faster.
You think the 1 hour deliveries and 10-minute deliveries with all of those dark stores being around the city, the smaller dark stores, is soon?
No, I don't. But I mean, 10 minute delivery is a new thing. Let's say I don't normally I don't see it as a compelling thing. I know that my friend again from Vitamin Shop, he's found that people will buy online and come and pick up, and they'll order it online and come pick it up 10 minutes later. So you better be ready, because they may beat you to filling the order. But in general, unless the faster you can be, the better. It's that simple, because that ultimately, because price, at least here, price is pretty much a non-issue anymore. Price is just, everybody meets the same price. If you it's like hotel prices. You go Googling them up and you see what the prices are, and with all the ads that you hear, they're still all the same. If they're a penny or two different, it doesn't matter. So it becomes a question of, can I rely on this company to be fast, or will it take who knows how long? I mean, it just took me 3 weeks to get two pair of sleeping shorts. That's crazy, right? I mean, I knew I could have gotten them from Amazon the next day, but I didn't want to. I wanted, and I wasn't in a hurry. But I was thinking, as I'm watching the time go by, this is taking a little longer than I would have expected. So definitely be fast.
And do you think that this thing with loyalty goes the same for all levels of brands? So expensive brands, cheap brands, middle, it's the same. Or for expensive brands, the loyalty stays?
The loyalty stays if the fit is right. I mean, if it, I'm talking about clothes now, right? So with clothes, it's fit. With food, it's organics and health that will drive loyalty. Whole Foods made some terrible mistakes a few years back, and they destroyed their customer loyalty, which is unfortunate. There was I don't know what you hear over there, but there was a problem with people the scales not reading accurately, and a $17 jar of asparagus water. So they did some things to damage that trust. But otherwise, when it comes to apparel, once you know a fit is right for you, like I you just will just keep buying it. You don't have to go back to the store again. I discovered Hoka Ones, which is a running shoe, during the time of the lockdown, and they're great. So I don't have to go to a store to try them on. I just buy them. You know.
Okay, okay. A lot of companies are thinking that you can use content and create more and more content and more sophisticated content to first of all drive clients into their funnel, and second of all to make the clients stick with them. Is that true? Do you see that happening?
We used to say that. We used to talk about this five spoke wheel, where you've got content, community, commerce obviously has to be a good experience, customer, and I forget what the fifth one was, but there was a whole wheel of them, and all of them had to be gotten correct. I think that again, because the supply chain is so difficult, and inflation is significant now. I think that what's king is price again, and
Okay.
speed.
So another thing that which is discussed a lot in the retail community is that somehow retail locations, brick and mortar locations, should transform. They should become a place of experience nowadays. What they say. So, and the example that is popping up all the time is the Nike flagship store in New York and Canada Goose store where they have the chamber with minus 30 degrees where you can try on the jackets, etc., etc. Do the consumers really want the new formats of store, or this is just a PR thing for the brands?
It's certainly an issue for the malls, for sure. For sure, because malls have become really unpleasant. Because and what happened was I call it to an extent the Walmart effect. Because when Walmart came along, I think for whatever reason, mall operators got lazy around the same time, and so they relied on the anchor stores to drive traffic into the store. The anchor stores are the big stores on the ends of the mall, like a Macy's on one end or a J.C. Penney on the other end, once upon a time Sears somewhere. And what happened is all the names I've mentioned we know have been basically having hard times. So now what becomes important is that the mall create an experience that makes it more sticky, that makes it more part of the community as opposed to isolated from the community, so that they can justify the rents that they're charging. That's what I really see as the biggest challenge. Yes, the customer experience is a big deal, but depending on timing, customer experience means different things, right? Again, sometimes a customer experience just means I want it fast. Other times, customer experience is really, indulge me, give me a glass of wine. But that's one thing that kind of got put on hold as a result of the pandemic. Because, like I said, I live in Miami and they're building a mall at some point that has a ski slope in it in Miami. Now, why anybody, that one is just, I don't get it, right? But they're doing it. The people who built the Mall of America up in Minneapolis are going to do that. So it really becomes kind of incumbent that when the pandemic is over, there's going to be a two-phase activity, I think, when we finally come out the other side of this. The first phase is what I call rebound romance, right? Where everybody all of a sudden wants to get out and they don't mind being in crowds and they're all excited and how great this is. And then they're going to go, well, but it was so much easier when I ordered from home and it came in a day. And where that all lands out, I don't know. I'm really curious to see. Originally, excuse me, I thought that this year would be a store explosion, lots of people going to stores. And then next year was going to be the first year where things started stabilizing. Now I don't know because Omicron has everybody fried. I mean, it's not a serious illness for most people from what I can gather, but we've all got COVID PTSD, and so people are hiding. I mean, I'm seeing more people wearing masks now than I have in a long time.
Oh yeah, yeah. Mask is our all the time companion nowadays. Um, so, but if we speak about the consumers, so we're now speaking about what malls are doing and what brands are doing. Um, what formats do the consumers want? You mentioned speed and you mentioned the speed of service and logistics. But in terms of the experience, do you think that they really need those digital endless aisles and different fancy experiences that a lot of companies are trying to sell nowadays?
Well, again, everything is sort of on hold in that regard because stores aren't explosive at the moment. Do I think people want to be able to buy in store and have it ordered online? Sure. I mean, that's part of the omni-channel world. I'll pay you for it now get it to me, or show proof to me that I'll order it here if you don't have it, but you have to promise that I'm really going to receive it as opposed to 6 months from now or whenever.
But what
Um,
technologies can you can you point out for brands and retailers to look at and to be aware in 2022 and maybe years to come that you see on the market that are either emerging or we can already look at them and implement them?
Certainly automated picking. Certainly the ability to do fulfillment from stores, the ability to return to stores, the ability to sell secondhand product in stores, because there's a whole generational shift that's happening behind the scenes while we're not while we're all holed up in our homes. The millennials who used to think tiny houses would work are now kind of having children and realizing no, they need actual homes. There's a big shift to now that people are working from home. There's a big shift out of cities into secondary cities and into the suburbs. Um, there it's hard to justify the expense of a place like New York or San Francisco, and so we're seeing a huge influx where I live of people. I mean, huge, really huge. So that there are some change. Everything is yet. Long story short, everything has yet to settle out, and now it's really hard for me to read the tea leaves around. Is this thing ever going away or not? I can't tell. One day they say we should be, reaching the end, because I don't think anyone expected the degree of vaccine hesitancy that we've seen. That's been kind of mind-boggling. And it doesn't seem as though the mRNA, I don't know what vaccines, I know the name of it, but Sputnik, but I don't know what's in it. Um, I know the ones we use here, and what we're starting to discover is that they wear off, because there's a lot of breakthrough infections now, a real
Yeah,
lot. And
yeah,
I don't
there
know
were.
how much. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. They wear off first of all, and they don't. We don't understand how they work against Omicron. Do they work or not? Because there are a lot of cases where people were fully vaccinated and still getting Omicron.
A lot, a real lot. I think they claim that you do better if you've had a booster, but I'm not sure that's true, and it's becoming a dilemma for me, because I'm rolling up on 6 months since my last booster. I've got enough comorbidities that I'm tempted to go out and tell a story and get another shot. But I'm also not keen to keep pumping this stuff into my body. I mean, there's a point where you go, I can't. You always have to feel the risk reward with these things. And I just don't know. So it's really hard for me to predict today, especially based on the information I'm hearing internationally. The only country, excuse me, that seems to be tracking this thing with a lot of precision is Israel. But Israel also has what's the word? Not unique, an exclusive deal with Pfizer, and so everything we're hearing is in relation to the Pfizer vaccine. I took Moderna. Theoretically, they should be the same. And if you believe what Israel said, it's time for another shot. So I really don't know.
Yeah. So, are there any? So, if we look at, I understand that it's all very blurry what's ahead of with the pandemic and everything else. But if you would point out like mistakes to avoid for retailers, what would that be?
Make sure that if you advertise something that you really have it. Don't take a promotion unless you think you have to. If a product is a scarce commodity, um, don't bother promoting it for sure. I mean, I do get my groceries delivered, and I've had multiple instances where they say, "Oh, this product's on special 2 for 1," and then it's not in the store. So, so definitely don't make promises you can't keep. Do your best to keep track of what you have in stock. Um, don't gouge people, because they'll remember later. They may buy it now if they need it, but they'll remember later. And that's my best advice. let people know if you don't have something, and try and give them an estimate of when you think it's coming back. And for me personally, I'm really tired of hearing the consumer blamed for the industry's inability to forecast or inability to get product in. And so don't do that anymore. You know, I mean, back at the beginning when we had shortages of paper goods, toilet paper and paper towels, etc., I heard 7 different excuses about why, how consumers were hoarding or consumers were buying more of this, or, well, it's because nobody's in offices anymore and we don't have the mills to make residential toilet paper. And my reaction was always nonsense, what you're afraid of. Because if you think about something like paper products, they're very high volume, right? They're big, high cube, and very low price and low margin. And so it's what I call fear of the bullwhip effect. There was a Professor Hal Lee out in California who always talked about the bullwhip effect, where you'll get an out of stock in the store and it starts rippling up the supply chain. And the next thing you know, you've got an overage all through the supply chain. I think most of the problems we saw in the early pandemic were absolutely related to fear of bullwhip effect. And now, apparently, I was just reading this morning, we're starting to go in the other direction where companies are buying just in case. Instead of just in time, they're shifting to just in case. So the key is to get off the pendulum and to find a middle ground. And more importantly, particularly in the fast-moving consumer goods arena, to collaborate with your suppliers and find a way to spread the risk, so that they don't have to be afraid that they're going to be stuck with piles of paper that they don't know what to do with. Find a way to collaborate and work together. Maybe bring some extra product to a container outside a store, let's say, and then use that as a central distribution point. Not a dark store, just a storage facility. You know what I mean?
Sure.
By the way, one reason I'm not bullish on dark stores is that the real estate tends to be more expensive. And so you're because you're in a store area rather than an industrial area. And then the second issue around that is zoning issues, because if you do too much shipping out of a place that's supposed to be a store, consumers, abutting neighbors can drop a dime. Abutting neighbors can say, no, you can't really do that anymore. That makes sense?
That makes sense. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, Paula, thank you very much for the insights you shared with us. We will make sure to leave a link in the description to your website where people can actually find the reports and subscribe to them, I guess. So thank you very much again. We hope that everything ends soon with the pandemic and we will be able to visit during the NRF or other events.
Was this helpful for you, by the way?
Oh yeah, I hope that it will be helpful for our viewers and listeners in terms
Great.
of insights they will get.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.